Will the House come to order? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Ayu, Mr. Alcos, Ms. Amato, Ms. Bellotti, Mr. Chun, Ms. Cochran, Mr. Evslin, Mr. Ganadin, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Garrett, Mr. Gates, Mr. Hashem, Mr. Holt, Ms. Hussey Burdick, Ms. Ichiyama, Mr. Iligan, Ms. Kahaloa, Ms. Capella, Mr. Kila, Ms. Kitagawa, Mr. Kobayashi, Mr. Kong, Ms. Lachika, Ms. Lamosao, Ms. Lowen, Ms. Martin, Ms. Martinez,
Excused.
Mr. Matayoshi, Ms. Matsumoto, Mr. Miyake, Ms. Mizuno, Ms. Morikawa, Ms. Nakamura, Mr. Nakashima,
Excused.
Mr. Nishimoto, Mr. Onishi, Ms. Peruso, Mr. Pirik, Ms. Poepoe, Mr. Quinlan,
Excused.
Mr. Sayama, Ms. Souza, Mr. Takeyama, Ms. Takenouchi, Mr. Tam, Mr. Tarnas, Mr. Todd, Mr. Ward, Mr. Woodson, Mr. Yamashita, Mr. Speaker.
Present.
Mr. Speaker, 48 members are present, 3 are excused.
Item 2, reading of the Journal, Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, may this matter be deferred.
So ordered. Item 3, Mr. Clerk, are there any messages from the Governor?
Mr. Speaker, there are none.
Item 4, Mr. Clerk, are there any Senate communications?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we are in receipt of a communication transmitting the noted Senate concurrent resolution having been adopted in the Senate.
Okay, members, are there any introductions? Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to take a moment to introduce teachers, kumu, and students, haumana from the Uluwa'e Learning Center from the leeward side. If you could all please stand once I call your name. We have with us Ezekiel Abbey, Carson Leong, Kalili Hiva, Nakili Inos Tamanaha, Aukanai, Bartels, Rev Tagupa, and Rocco Silva. Welcome to your House of Representatives, and these guys come from Uluwa'e Learning Center, an awesome after-school program that reinforces our culture. So welcome. Thank you. Also, I forgot to mention their teachers, Kumu Kamaka Cardenas and Mr. Tyler Tagupa. Thank you for your leadership and thanks for being here as well. Also, in the gallery today are some friends who are visiting from Alaska, Phil and Diamond. Phil and Diamond Eisen or Izan, welcome to Hawaii, and these guys led the charge to repeal ranked choice voting in Alaska. Thank you so much for being here.
Representative Lachika.
Mr. Speaker, today I am honored to introduce the Hawaii Early Childhood Advocacy Alliance and the Hawaii Children's Action Network, dedicated to championing affordable and high-quality education and care for Hawaii's youngest learners. Joining us today in the gallery are keiki and advocates from the Executive Office of Learning, our Public Charter School Commission, Department of Human Services, and a number of advocacy organizations, as well as preschools, all working together to explore various pathways to enrich early learning opportunities for our keiki. They've been championing expanding access to public preschools, early childhood education by championing policies to increase wages for early childhood providers, as well as increasing supply for classrooms for our keiki. May all the advocates, as well as our early childhood providers and our keiki superheroes, please stand to be recognized. Welcome to your House of Representatives. I would also like to welcome in the gallery my family who's here out of spring break. First, we have Foggy, who's 7 years old. He loves to play soccer and loves to read. And also we have Ricky, who's 4 years old, who loves gymnastics and also plays soccer. And then finally, my husband, everybody knows cricket, La Chica. We celebrated our 9th anniversary yesterday. So welcome to your House of Representatives. One last, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to recognize a dear constituent and friend of mine, and also a strong advocate, Ms. Jamie Detweiler from our district. Welcome to your House of Representatives.
Representative Martin, followed by Representative Woodson. Representative Woodson.
Okay, thank you, Speaker. In the audience today, we have with us my office team. When I call your name, please stand. Lauren Caldwell, please stand. Thank you, you're amazing. Corey Sanders, Annika Edwards, gals, you're amazing. Please welcome them to the House of Representatives. They were responsible for coordinating Education Week, and we're so grateful for them. So thank you so much, ladies. You did an excellent job. Also, in addition to that, Speaker, if I may quickly recognize Chief Clerk's Office, Sergeant at Arms, HMSO, Print Shop, your office, Speaker, Vice Speaker's Office, Majority Leader's Office, Senator Kidani's Office, State Libraries, Department of Education Superintendent, other advocacy groups. Thank you for allowing us to celebrate education and our educators and other awardees. Thank you so much. Aloha.
Representative Evslin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to welcome my former colleagues, the incredible staff from Kauai Council Services. Please rise when I say your name. We have the County Clerk, Jade Tanigawa Fountain. We have Christian Nakea Tressler. We have Allison Okazaki, Janelle Agas, and Randall Machado. And they're accompanied by my legislative aide, Adria Sipole. Welcome to your House of Representatives.
Representative Gates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the gallery today, we have the principal of Kamaili Academy here with us, Paul Kepka. Please rise. And accompanying him is the Charter Commission for the Pre-K team, advocating for continued support for early learning across the state. Welcome to your House of Representatives.
Are there further introductions? If not, can we take a recess subject to the call of the chair? Recess. Will the House come to order? Members, we're on item 5, Representative Nakamura.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt Standing Committee Report numbers 1277-24 through 1339-24 as listed on pages 1 through 17, and that the accompanying Senate bills as may be amended pass second reading and/or be referred to their designated committees.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Okay, discussion, members. SCR 1277, 1278. Next page, 1279, 1280, 1281, 1282. Next page, 1283, 1284, 1285, 1286. Representative Poi Poi.
1284 reservations.
On 1284, so ordered. Okay, well, now we're on 1285, 1286. Next page, 1287, 12. Representative Capella.
On 1287, no vote, please.
So ordered. Representative Peruso.
Same request.
So ordered. Representative Poi Poi.
Reservations.
So ordered. Representative Souza.
In strong support, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
Just a brief comment that as a very strong advocate for aviation and space, this bill will definitely increase our ability to diversify our economy, and also the space economy is slated to become $1 trillion industry within the next decade. So hopefully this will allow Hawaii to lay the groundwork so that we can take part in that. Thank you.
Representative Amato. Representative Ward.
Speaker, may I have the former speaker's words entered into the journal as my own?
So ordered.
Because what
In
she said
support?
is truth. Sorry?
In support? In support.
Did she not say support?
Yes, she did. So ordered. Please proceed.
Because this is a no-brainer in terms of diversification of the economy. We have the potential geographically, we have the potential in terms of the political will probably is lacking, but we have the capacity to bring in the private sector, we have the capacity to bring in the money to do this. And we're just sitting kind of on our hands. So this pushes the ball a little bit forward. If you recall, there was with the former Senator Kai from the Big Island, and I had the Aerospace Caucus going. I know there's one that's going on now, which is very, very important to the future of probably not only our economy, but probably what's going on in the world of the Pacific vis-a-vis space exploration, as well as Xi Jinping and other sorts of things. So this is a new, innovative, creative way. The thing that when I call upon being entrepreneurial and innovative, Mr. Speaker, this is the area where it's at. And we've been really kind of paranoid, schizophrenic in regards, well, we love you, D-Bed, keep on going, and then we take Christofouli and we knock him out, we knock out his, we retire Christofouli, and then we keep a position, but we don't fund it, or we fund a position and we don't fill it. Mr. Speaker, this bill at least gives us some momentum in the right direction, and I would urge everybody to keep their eyes on what goes up in the sky can be a winner for us. Thank you.
Is further discussion? If not, 1288. 1280, Representative Hasi Burdick.
Reservations, please.
1288, so ordered. Representative Ward.
Mr. Speaker, strong support.
Please
Comments to
proceed.
the journal, please.
So ordered. Representative Peruso.
With reservations.
So ordered. Representative Capella.
With reservations.
So ordered. Representative Amato.
Reservations.
So ordered. Okay, 1289, 1290. Next page, 1291. Representative Todd.
Thank you. I just wanted to get ahead of this because since I saw a minority member standing up. I just wanted to note that, in support. This would basically take what we did at the state level, which is a pilot project specific to electric vehicles only, and it does have a fee that you can opt into, which will cap and mean you do not have to pay a road usage charge. So I would note that because the cap is in there, it benefits rural drivers, because if you drive more than what the average is, you can opt into the cap, which means you do not pay the road usage charge. Whereas if you drive less, if you opt into the cap, you will pay more than you would pay if you opted out of, or if you opted back into the road usage charge. So it benefits rural drivers and only applies to electric vehicles. Thank you.
Representative Garcia,
In opposition,
please proceed.
thank you to the representative from Hilo. But I do want to say that the whole reason why this state has been pushing EVs is to fulfill this goal we have of shifting towards renewable energy. And so we were supposed to create incentives for people to get EVs, and here we go charging them. So no vote.
Representative Ward,
Speaker, strong opposition.
please proceed.
This is a free lunch for the EVs. $50 a year for an EV. I mean, my goodness, I drive an old car and I've got to fill it with a lot of gas and I pay a lot of taxes on that. To say $50 caps it, basically we're trying to incentivize all you guys who have petroleum running cars. We're going to get rid of you and we're going to give these guys the benefit of the doubt. We've given them free parking at the airports. We've given them rebates. But for those who can't afford it, which now, I think if you look at what's going on in Detroit, they're saying we're producing these EV cars and nobody's buying them. This is forcing down the throat this electrical phenomenon, which in this case, $50 is a drop in the bucket. It should be where we take all of the cars who pay the fees and divide it into an average and make them pay. To tell me that I only pay $50 a year for my car is a joke. So this is a free lunch for the EV crowd. Thank you.
Representative Todd,
Thank you. Still in support. I think a lot of folks would be shocked at how little fuel tax they currently pay. A vast majority of folks, particularly in the urban core, pay significantly less than $50 to the state. I would note that this is exclusively a bill that deals with the county. Some counties have higher fuel taxes, some have lower fuel taxes. Maui and Hawaii Island having more significant, which again would definitely benefit rural drivers. But the intent of the pilot program is to collect that data so that we can arrive at that correct amount if this is something that is applied after 2028 when this program would lapse. But we need to collect that data so we know what the appropriate figure is. This is kind of a guesstimate right now, but it could end up being a little bit more, it could end up being a little bit less. But until we collect that data, we're not going to know for sure. Thank you.
Representative Ward,
Mr. Speaker, for those of us who buy gas in Honolulu, we're at 25 to 35%.
still in opposition.
It's still in opposition.
Please proceed.
Those of us who buy gas in Honolulu or on the island of Oahu are up to 25 to 35% just in tax. It could even be higher, it could be even 40. But in some places like New York, it's 50%, San Francisco, even higher than that. It's a very highly taxed because everybody drives. It's a good place to get money. But with this free lunch for the EVs, I think it's out of whack. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion? If not, 1292. Representative Hussey Burdick,
No vote.
so ordered. Representative Prusso,
No vote.
so ordered. Representative Capella,
Reservations.
so ordered. Representative Amato,
Reservations.
so ordered. Further discussion? If not, 1293, 1294. Next page, 1295, 1296. Representative Garcia,
With reservations, brief comment.
please proceed.
I would have voted no if the bill was in its original form, but I want to thank the health chair for removing the language as it relates to abortion services and certain vaccines, certain preventative vaccines. So with reservations.
Further, Representative Ward,
With reservations, please.
so ordered. Okay, 1297, 1298. Representative Purick,
In opposition.
please proceed.
This bill authorizes minors who are 14 years of age or older to consent to medical care and services for sexually transmitted infections, pregnancy, and family planning services, including the prevention of sexually transmitted infections. It requires confidentiality policies and practices for insurers and healthcare providers. This is basically allowing kids to make medical decisions without their parents being notified or without their parents' consent. I believe that parents should be involved in the medical practices of their children, so I'll be voting no.
Representative Kong,
Thank you, Speaker. No vote.
so ordered. Representative Garcia,
No vote.
so ordered. Representative Akos,
No vote.
so ordered. Representative Matsumoto,
Same request.
so ordered. Representative Ward,
Same request.
so ordered. Further discussion? Okay, if not, next page, 1299. Representative Gates,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In strong support, permission to insert written comments.
so ordered.
Thank you.
1300. 1301, 1302, next page 1303, 1304, 1305, 1306, next page 1307, 1308, 1309, 1310. Representative Garcia.
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Amato.
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Hussey Burdick.
Sorry, at the appropriate time, can we go back to 1305 and 1306?
Okay, 1310 first. If not, we'll go back to 1305. Representative Hussey Burdick.
Reservations, please.
So ordered.
And 1306, also reservations.
So
Sorry.
ordered. Okay, we're back on page. Representative Ward.
At the appropriate time, back to 1301, please.
1301. Yes, please proceed on 1301.
Speaker, I'm in opposition to this. We've just gone through a few emergencies, and we're still suffering from the Maui wildfires. Either there's a sense of distrust with the governor in terms of how he's allocated funds. I don't know why we want to hamstring or delay, I guess, maybe not hamstring, his ability to power, which governors since statehood have been able to move funds around. And to declare emergency, the only time I heard a declared emergency on this floor was when Mayor Mayor Caldwell stood up when Governor Lingo proclaimed a homeless crisis, and he was vehemently rebuked by Cynthia Thielen, who stood here and said, "How dare you say these people on the poor do not deserve the emergency?" The point is, when you have an emergency, you move funds, you move quickly, and you move it effectively. With a bill that says, well, you know, you got to go through a consensus model, which is good. Our job is checks and balances as the legislature, and the minority, our job is to be the loyal opposition. But in this case, I'm for the governor. Why I want to slow him down if it's an emergency? Unless this is make-believe, and we don't really believe when there's an emergency that's a real emergency, Mr. Speaker. So why slow down the governor's ability to move funds to make sure that wildfires or homelessness or anything else is delayed? I just don't understand. For those reasons, Mr. Speaker, this is not a good bill. Thank you.
Okay, members, we're on back to page 10, 1311. Representative Ganadin.
Back to 1305.
Okay, let's go back. 1305, Representative Ganadin.
No vote.
So ordered. Okay, we're back on page 10, 1311.
Mr. Speaker.
Representative Souza.
Same thing, 1305. No vote.
No vote on 1305.
Thank you.
So ordered. Is there further discussion on 1305?
Reservations.
So Representative Mato.
Thank you.
So ordered. Further discussion. Okay, if not, back on page 10, 1312. 1313. 1314. Next page, 1315. 1316. 1317. 1318. Next page, 1319. 1320. Representative Perk.
In support.
Please proceed.
I'd like to thank the members of this body for introducing a bill that would help decrease red tape and regulation for increasing housing in Hawaii.
Representative Poi Poi.
Reservations.
So ordered. Representative Pruso.
With reservations.
So ordered. Representative Amato.
Reservations.
So ordered. Further discussion on 1320, if not 1321. Representative Capella.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker. On 1320, with reservations, please.
Okay, so ordered on 1320. Representative Hussey Bordet.
Same request.
So ordered. Okay, 1321, 1322. Next page, 1323, 1324. Representative Garcia.
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Souza.
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Ganadin.
No vote.
So ordered. Further discussion on 1324. 1325. Representative Pruso.
With reservations.
So ordered. Representative Hussey Burdick.
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Amato.
Opposition and no vote.
So ordered. Representative Capella.
Same request.
So ordered. Representative Bellotti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Reservations.
So ordered. Okay,
Oh, Speaker.
Representative Poype.
Reservations.
So ordered. Okay, 1326. Next page, 1327, 1328, 1329, 1330. Representative Garcia.
No vote.
So ordered. Next page, 1331, 1332. Representative Hussey Burdick.
Reservations, please.
On 1332, so ordered. Representative Prusso.
Same request.
So ordered. Further discussion on 1332, if not 1333, 1334. Next page, 1335, 1330. Representative Purick. 1335.
No vote.
No vote, so ordered. Representative Garcia.
Reservations.
So ordered. Further discussion on 1335, if not 1336, 1337. Representative Purick.
No vote.
So ordered. 1338. 1339. Representative Tarnas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In support,
Please proceed.
this bill is a reasonable and moderate and measured approach to regulating the legal use of cannabis by adults in Hawaii. Legalizing cannabis for use by adults will actually have significant public safety and public health benefits for our community. It'll better protect youth from drug use through education and investment in youth programs. It will reduce drug violence. It'll promote public safety by allowing people to buy from legitimate businesses, not on the illegal market. It will ensure that the cannabis products purchased are safe, free from contaminants like fungus and mold, or even worse, methamphetamine and fentanyl. It will allow us to tax and regulate cannabis products, which currently provide no tax or revenue to the state. In states that have legalized cannabis, the facts are teen cannabis use has gone down, not up. The rates of psychosis-related diagnoses and prescribed antipsychotics have gone down by a statistically significant amount in legalization states compared to prohibitionist states. There has not been an increase in fatal accidents attributable to cannabis alone in states that have legalized cannabis, because the drivers actually have alcohol and other substances in their system. You can't attribute it just to cannabis. If we continue to criminalize cannabis, we will continue to keep cannabis production and sales in the illegal, unregulated market, which continues to cause real harm to our community because the product is not tested and can be contaminated with seriously harmful substances. We have specifically set up a system in this bill to manage all psychoactive cannabis products in this new authority. Because right now, hemp-derived psychoactive products are totally unregulated and available in stores and on the street today. This bill addresses this loophole to protect the public. This bill also allows 18 months to set up rules, provide opportunity for other businesses to be established in production and retail. This new regulatory framework is designed to attract the legacy growers to participate in the regulated market. As we heard in the hearings on this bill, the regulated market today can offer cannabis at the same price as it is sold on the unregulated market. This system can work well. Let's give it a chance. Health and safety regulations, lab testing, potency labels, and taxation are only possible with legalization. It is time to legalize cannabis for adult use in Hawaii, and I would encourage members to support this measure. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Kitagawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In opposition,
Please proceed.
I continue to be in strong opposition to this bill for many reasons, and I would like to just share a few of those. The Attorney General's office stated the following during testimony in the most recent hearing. The Attorney General Lopez has made very clear that federal illegality, the growth of the illicit market, driving while high, and concerns regarding public health and protecting children are serious issues associated with legalizations. No effort to legalize cannabis, however carefully planned and well-intentioned, will be without such problems and risks. As the Chief Legal and Law Enforcement Officer for the state, it is extremely concerning to hear from the Attorney General this level of concern over so many aspects of legalized marijuana. The Department of Health's testimony also highlights clear concerns regarding the legalization of marijuana and how legalization will not help individuals reach their full health potential, but will in fact have negative impacts on the health of the public. They also mentioned that marijuana can provide medical benefits for certain medical conditions, which is commonly stated by supporters as a reason to pass this bill. However, the reality is that patients who need marijuana for medical reasons or conditions can already get access to it through the state's legal medical cannabis program. Legalization is not required to continue our state's medical cannabis program. As I mentioned last week, it is foolish for us to think that this bill has enough safeguards and regulations that youth will not have greater access to marijuana once it is legalized. We cannot stop the use of substances like alcohol, tobacco, and vaping for our youth, even though these are adult use only products. The reality is that legalization allows easier access for youth to get marijuana, including in the form of edibles and gummies. This increased access and use, as stated by the Department of Health in testimony, can lead to mental health and substance abuse concerns. The Department of Health shared data in testimony that adolescents and young adults who use cannabis daily or near daily are more likely than non-users to develop future psychotic disorders such as schizophrenia, as well as develop cannabis use disorder, which is an addiction to cannabis that causes a psychiatric disorder, including mood, anxiety, and personality disorders. They also shared data to suggest that adolescents and young adults who use cannabis are more likely than non-users to have suicidal thoughts or attempt suicide. Since I've been elected to office in 2018, we have heard and passed numerous bills trying to address our mental health crisis in the state, as well as reduce our alarming youth suicide rates. Many of us have also fought against our youth vaping epidemic. We shouldn't legalize another substance that puts our keiki at risk. We shouldn't pass a measure that goes against everything we have been fighting for over the last few years in regards to these measures. And we shouldn't make it easier for our kids to get access to substances that can have long-term negative effects on their lives and the lives of those around them. Legalization of marijuana has so many concerns to the public and safety, and as I mentioned last week, has no economic benefit to the state, as it will not put money into our general fund, but instead puts money directly into two special funds created in this bill. Let's not pass a measure that does more harm than good. Thank you very much.
Representative Takayama.
Please record a no vote for me.
So ordered. Representative Ward.
Speaker in opposition.
So please proceed.
Is it possible to record the speech of last week as
Please proceed
in the
with
journal?
your-
Just proceed with
Please
new ones.
proceed.
I don't want to go over it again, but I want to remind people that when we say the black market's going to not proliferate, I think if we look at even the medical marijuana card holders, 70 to 80% of those people are going to the black market because of otherwise some of the gaslighting says, oh, we got prices that are as cheap in the dispensaries as they are on the streets. People vote with their wallets, and that shows that that is not exactly true. Why would they be going to the black market? The other thing is that, you know, legalization is already here. There's no place you can't get marijuana, Mr. Speaker. If you get it, as the prosecutor says, you get a slap on the wrist, you get a parking ticket. So this thing about we got to rush to get marijuana in and all that, and even if you got expungement as the big issue, feeling sorry for the victim, we can do that without legalization, Mr. Speaker. But the black market issue is a very, very big one, and the whole point of let's let all this stuff out of the bag, it's benign. Look what happened to Oregon, Portland. It became a toilet of drugs and crazy people. And now they've when they decriminalize by law anything to any drug goes, now they've reversed that, Mr. Speaker, because they've seen it and they've learned from their experience. That's what adults are. That's what human beings are. We learn from experience. That's why there's erasers on the end of pencils. When you make mistakes, you make and learn from the feedback. Do we think we're not going to be the Colorado or the consequences of California, where the cartels come in and it becomes really a black market? And I want to end with what Governor Lingo has talked about. She says, we're going to allow all these little pot shops to pop up in neighborhoods that are the poorest. And she noticed, she says, you know, there's a reason why we don't allow liquor stores prohibited next to public housing. But we've got them probably on their way because marijuana and marijuana usage is centralized, and this is a geographical bias, in poor people. Who are the people who smoke nowadays? Not middle class or upper class people, it's the poor people who smoke. And for the marijuana consumers, it's the same group. So we're going to punish those people who are having a hard time struggling to exist. And a lot of those, as you know, are the Alice families, asset limited income challenge earners who are the working poor in the Hawaiian community, 63% of the community, which is an embarrassment in a thing of its own. So, Mr. Speaker, this is the worst thing that we could do. And when those people sing the praises of marijuana because of the money, and I'm going to meet with the Japanese ambassador this afternoon, the Japanese Consul General, to see if it's true what the prosecutor said. If we legalize marijuana, the amount of tourists that come and the amount of spending from Japan could be hit. Right now, they're at about 2 billion. Even a percentage of what we get in terms of this great refund of 39 million we get in the first year, then we go up to 400 million. That's going to be chicken feed, Mr. Speaker. This is economically, psychologically, sociologically, legislatively a bad deal. It's against the people of Hawaii. We got to learn from the mistakes of others and not do it, Mr. Speaker. I think when Judge said the odor of mendacity for marijuana is prevalent in so many of the speeches that says this is the best thing since sliced bread. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Amato,
Thank you, Speaker. I rise in support.
please proceed.
There is so much hyperbole and misinformation about marijuana being spread, especially by law enforcement officials who want to influence lawmaking instead of enforcing law. Instead of trying to convince you why marijuana is okay, I'm going to discuss the unscientific, unfounded 50-year-old propaganda arguments we have all been hearing. Some say it will cause more traffic fatalities. The Attorney General misleadingly spread fatality data that lumped in marijuana with alcohol and presented zero evidence on weed alone causing a single death. Let me be clear. Officials like the Attorney General and County Prosecutor, even the former governor, presented inflammatory, statistically biased arguments to this body. Their biased numbers cannot be part of any rational discussion. Some say it affects brain development until age 25. While this may be true, the bill specifies not for kids, not for kids. Putting age restrictions on kids is a proven technique that demonstrably worked for reducing tobacco use. So why do some assume this won't work for marijuana? Even make it age 26 and up if you want. Look, I am a mother of 4. If you really care about the keiki as I do, and I know you do, and if kids on drugs are the concern, then instead let's pass massive anti-meth and anti-fentanyl task force funding. Let's fix real problems. It is well documented that teen use of dangerous synthetic Delta-8 THC is higher in states without legal marijuana. And you can buy Delta-8 at a convenience store. Why don't we protect keiki by eliminating access to Delta-8? How about we stop teenage drinking and flavored tobacco smoking? I was one of the introducers last year of HB 833 to ban flavored tobacco, which couldn't even get a hearing. Similarly, this year, HB 1778 died. Let's solve the real problems and not point the blame at marijuana. Sorry. Some say there will be overdoses. Overdoses? If a kid drinks a bottle of alcohol, they can die. A Tylenol overdose will destroy a liver. And let's be honest, Too much weed does cause intoxication and altered perception, and for some, anxiety. But no one dies from smoking a joint. No one. Do you get uncomfortable if you smoke too much or eat too much weed? Yes, but you don't die. Some say marijuana causes increased heart attacks and strokes. This is true of any burned inhaled plant, including tobacco, and alcohol is far worse. Are we Puritans from the 1600s that must control everyone's activities? Should we start burning witches too? This body is supposed to stand for body autonomy rights. It's time to decide if you really do. Unfiltered marijuana is no worse than unfiltered tobacco. Both contain tar. So are you going to ban tobacco? So far, we can't even ban flavored vapes. Indeed, U.S. Surgeon General C. Everett Koop recommended bong water pipes for marijuana. Dr. Koop was a logical man of science. Some say dispensaries will be robbed and there will be an increase in crime. By that flawed reasoning, we should eliminate all liquor stores and banks. Some say it is an election year. We'll all lose our seats if we pass the bill. Wrong. A majority of people statewide support legalization, so that is just fear-mongering to influence other legislators. In my district, two-thirds of the people want legalization. And in this representative form of government, I work for my constituents, so I'll vote yes. Some say it is illegal at the federal level, so it will jeopardize federal funding. This is just wrong. Show me one state that has lost federal funding by legalizing weed. President Biden has been laying the groundwork to ease federal restrictions since 2022. Even HHS Secretary Becerra is working to change it to a Schedule 3 status. What is a Schedule 3? The DEA said Schedule 3 chemicals have a, quote, moderate to low potential for physical and psychological dependence. So let's quit exaggerating reefer madness, fear, propaganda, and stick to facts. I agree with our president and Democratic Vice President Kamala Harris, who said nobody should have to go to jail for smoking weed.
Representative
Mr.
Russo.
Speaker, I yield my time.
Thank you. Some say we already have medical marijuana. Even as a stroke survivor with chronic pain, my health insurance will not cover a 329 card, and the 329 process is unattainable for many, funding black market gangsters. My health insurer will not even give me a 329 examination to get a card, and won't cover marijuana as a prescription, but it is willing to hand me opioids like they are candy. This is bizarre at best, and it's dangerous. Personally, I would rather have people enjoying a relaxing joint than see addicts dying from alcohol, fentanyl, or unsafe, unregulated lace black market drugs. My science team tells me that mold on weed produces aflatoxins, which are vigorous cancer-causing agents. People will use marijuana, so we owe it to them to give them safe, tested, inspected marijuana and prevent cancer. Some say this bill is cash negative. Finance can fix this so it's cash positive by altering the taxation rate. 22% should do it. Some say it will make people lazy. There is zero evidence of this. This 1930s racist argument was reaffirmed by Reagan's war on drugs, which resulted in excessive levels of imprisonment and enforced drug detention centers, and politics with disproportionate impacts on vulnerable, poor, minorities, and women. Far too many in Hawaii have been sent to jail for simple marijuana possession at an enormous cost to our state and lost wages, family disruption, incarceration costs, and income tax revenue. If you could prevent needless suffering, maybe even save one life or keep one family together by passing this bill, would you do it? I would. Decriminalization was gutted in this building just last week. No one should go to jail for smoking a joint, except apparently adults in Hawaii with a 4-gram fatty. Some say it's a gateway drug. I challenge anyone here to cite a refereed scientific paper on this. I know many people who will only smoke weed and not drink alcohol. In fact, in Colorado, after legalization, opioid deaths were reduced by 6.5%, Violent crime was reduced. And, let's see. And critical state revenue was created after legalization. Again, if you could prevent needless suffering, maybe even save one life by passing this bill, would you do it? I sure would, so I am voting yes. The Honolulu prosecutor said this isn't the 3% THC weed from Woodstock. That is the one true thing I heard from him. And Woodstock was not about dirt weed. Some people are about 50 years out of touch. Some say it causes psychological problems. I challenge you to show me 2 refereed scientific studies that agree on this fake propaganda statement. The days of 1936 reefer madness propaganda are over in most of the United States. Didn't we learn anything from 1920s prohibition fueling guns and gangsters, or the unintended consequences of the Reagan war on drugs? Prohibition in Hawaii will continue to funnel money to organized crime and strengthen dangerous illegal dealers. We can have safe, inspected, regulated, profitable marijuana and save lives doing it. Whether it is reproductive rights, housing, or marijuana, I promised my district that I would legislate from the heart using science as my guide, and most importantly, vote the way they tell me. So I must vote yes. It is the wish of the people of my community. I know feelings are running high, but please consider my words and stick to facts in this close vote. I hope even one of you will switch from a hard no to a yes, or yes with reservations for legalization. Save one family, save one life today. Mahalo.
Representative Matayoshi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was going to mostly stand on my testimony from last time, but these are going pretty long. I'm just going to hit some of the highlights and respond to some of the points brought up today.
Is this an
I'm sorry, in opposition.
Please proceed.
The first is the price tag. I mean, it's $39 million in a year where we are talking about cutting budgets to departments, to social programs. Granted, the proponents of this bill would have you believe that most of this money would be made up. But even if they're right, we would be fronting the $39 million to establish this program, and I think that's $39 million that we just simply do not have. On the item of black market, other states who have legalized marijuana recreationally have seen a huge boom in the black market. I've heard from previous speakers that we want to tax them, and that the taxes are going to make it up, but that the prices are going to remain the same and competitive with the black market. Mr. Speaker, those two are in opposite. The reason why the black market is able to sell marijuana for cheaper is because they are not subject to the tax. So if you make the tax what it is in the bill, or if you even raise it, as certain speakers have suggested, that's going to differentiate the price even more. I think that in order to get the money back through this bill, we're going to get it back through taxes. So that it's virtually impossible to sell legal weed and get our money back and compete with the black market. You can't have your cake and eat it too. The taxes make it impossible to do that. The dangers to drivers, I have heard the previous speakers, one of the previous speakers' testimony or speech that yes, a lot of the drivers that were arrested for driving under the influence of marijuana were also intoxicated with alcohol as well. That might be true, but I do believe that if you are high and drunk, you are more likely to cause an accident rather than just drunk. So I'm not sure why we're adding marijuana to the mix. I think that the increase in vehicle incidents with people who were driving high does make a difference. I think that we did see a rise in the Rocky Mountain area. The impact on tourism, I'm not going to go too much into it. Everyone knows that marijuana smells pretty terrible when it's smoked. I want to point out that it's already illegal to smoke marijuana pretty much everywhere right now, but it's still happening. If we normalize recreational marijuana, we're going to see an increase in those areas. Even though we're saying, no, don't smoke in the parks, don't smoke in the beach, we are still going to see an increase in it, especially due to normalization. The point I really want to hit, Mr. Speaker, that I did not go over last time is this is going to require a lot of law enforcement. And I think everyone acknowledges that, including the bill's introducers and the bill's proponents. In order to make this bill work, we're going to need at least, and I counted 17 law enforcement hired just for this program. Right now, HPD on Oahu is at 20% vacancy. We have 425 vacancies at last count. On Maui, we have a 30% vacancy with 165 vacancies. On Hawaii Island, we have 89 vacancies. If we're not able to fill the vacancies we have, we're missing hundreds and hundreds of officers. And yet this program proposes to hire 17 more on top of the ones we're not filling yet. I don't believe that's going to happen. And if that doesn't happen, in order to effectuate this program and to make sure it's done the way the bill's introducers would like it to be done, we're going to need to start pulling officers from other places. And officers are already stretched so thin, they're having trouble responding to 911 calls. I'm personally afraid of the danger it's putting our community in if we need to pull officers off the beat or out of other divisions in order to staff this cannabis office. I don't believe that that's the right thing we should be doing for our community, and I really do believe that it's going to make Hawaii a more dangerous place. It is still federally illegal. Even if they did move it down to a Schedule III drug, we're not selling ketamine on the streets. I think that even a Schedule III drug is dangerous. It should not be recreationally available, so I don't believe that's a valid argument. It's true that no president so far has cracked down on any states that have legalized marijuana, but presidents change all the time. We're about to have a presidential election. There's no way to tell in the future whether Hawaii joining in with the other states is not going to have negative repercussions on our state.
Mr. Speaker,
Representative Garrett.
yield my time.
Thank you. Almost done. The last point I want to make, Mr. Speaker, is that we seem to be creating a problem with this bill and then trying to use the tax revenue to solve that problem. And I know other people will say that the problem's already here, but I really believe that we're making it worse and then using all the money for programs to make it better. It just doesn't make sense to me. So thank you.
Representative Nishimoto.
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Matsumoto.
No vote. And if I can have the words from the Vice Chair of Finance and the member from Kaneohe inserted to the journals if they're my own.
So ordered.
Thank you.
Representative Kobayashi.
Mr. Speaker, in opposition.
Please proceed.
Let me summarize what I said last time about this being a public health disaster. We have numerous, dozens, maybe even hundreds of refereed scientific journal articles about the bad health effects of marijuana. Certainly, marijuana affects the brain and mental health, addiction, hallucinations, depression, anxiety. It also changes the brain structure, not just the brain functioning. Marijuana, especially amongst heavy adolescent users, changes the brain structure, changes in areas involving attention, memory, decision-making, and motivation. We don't have a precise way, even with our best scientific diagnostic electronic equipment, to detect how many brain cells die. And of course, that's partly because brain cells die normally every day, but they're regenerated. What happens is that you have, quote, amongst heavy users, a irreversible intelligent quotient, IQ loss, up to 8 points, as well as motivational mood changes. This is a powerful drug that has great effects on the brain. As such, it decreases job performance, it decreases academic performance, and it increases dropouts. When you take marijuana, you affect everything from motor skills to memory to attention, problem solving. This is all not good for job performance and for academic performance. So I repeat, we have much evidence that this is a public health disaster. On the point about the $39 million mentioned from the representative from Kaneohe, Attorney General iterates that she would recommend $10 million for Cannabis Regulation Special Fund, $10 million for Cannabis Social Equity Special Fund, $5 million for public health and education. I would note on this point, we already spend $7.5 million for tobacco prevention and control. But this money mostly comes from the biggest ever tax legal settlement in Hawaii history, which brought in 40 million plus the prior fiscal year ending FY23, and is expected to bring us over $1.2 billion in the next 25 years. But even with all of that money, and even with the $7.5 million spent on tobacco prevention and control, many people, of course, see tobacco as a big problem, especially the vaping issue. So what we are facing is dollar needs that grow upon us. I would mention Oregon. Oregon spends millions of dollars every year on public safety enforcement. So in 2022, they had a special one-time emergency fund of $22 million allocated for law enforcement. And guess what? When applications went out, applications came in at $12.8 million more than the $26 million. So the needs grow for all of these special funds, whether it be public health education, nuisance abatement, law enforcement special fund, etc. All of this is a bit like a deep, dark, empty pit that calls out for money. And we cannot solve all of these problems with money because so many of the ill effects of marijuana cannot be measured precisely. You cannot say...
Representative?
I'll quit at that. Thank you very much.
Representative Sayama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With reservations, with brief comments.
Please proceed.
Well, it doesn't really take a genius to see that this bill and issue is very contentious, both on a social, financial, and perhaps moral front. First, I just want to note my concerns of this bill and issue. As the Chair on Labor and Government Operations had noted, this bill would create a significant financial burden on the state. And this year with the Lahaina wildfires, as well as the hazard paid from COVID era kind of looming on the legislature's budget, I struggle to see how we will be able to pay for the upfront cost to administer this extensive regulatory regime. The Council on Revenues just released another projection which noted that economic projections will remain relatively stagnant at 4%. And so again, there are significant financial concerns for this body to consider. Next is the 18-month transition period, which the Chair on Judiciary had noted. On page 30 of the Attorney General's report, it noted that this 18-month period was based off of the Massachusetts model, I believe, but it also noted that it would welcome a longer transition period. Mr. Speaker, I believe that the 18 months, while well-intentioned and well-researched, is insufficient to create a robust regulatory regime as this bill envisions. And hopefully, through an extended transition period, we would be able to inform the public really through the education campaign that this bill creates, the risks of marijuana use, as well as establishing a robust campaign to, again, educate the public on this matter. Sorry, I do have a few more points. As also was noted by the Labor and Government Operations Chair, recruitment and hiring is also an issue. Again, this creates numerous full-time positions within various departments. And according to DHER's 2024 vacancy report, we still have 27% on average vacancy rates in civil service positions across the state of Hawaii. And of the positions filled, 39% are retirement ready. Mr. Speaker, I struggle to understand how the state would be able to fill all these positions that this bill creates within an 18-month period to effectively carry out the regulatory structures listed. Finally, I do have some personal concerns relating to self-grown cannabis plants. I have no problem with parity and fairness, treating cannabis, recreational cannabis, with any other recreational substance such as alcohol or tobacco. But the fact of the matter is I don't think we allow the general public, the consumer, to grow their own tobacco products, to create and consume or sell any of their homegrown, perhaps alcohol products as well. So I do have some personal concerns there. Now, all these concerns being said, I do support this measure in some ways as well. Like the chair on Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs said, and as the AG noted, this creates a robust and reasonable regulatory regime for adult use cannabis. Having visited 3 cannabis production facilities in the state and a dispensary on Oahu, I have been thoroughly impressed with the quality of these facilities, the safety, the security, and the professionalism of the staff there as well. This bill provides parity for medical and recreational cannabis, I believe. And so I'm fairly certain that if this bill is thoroughly implemented, that there will be sufficient safety measures there. This will also improve consumer protection significantly. Again, currently, this marijuana recreational use is completely unregulated. Consumers do not know what they're putting into their body when they consume marijuana. This could be on various fronts, such as mold or extremely high THC levels, which could pose safety hazards to the consumers. Much like tobacco and any other sin products, we need to make sure that marijuana is well regulated and managed for the consumer safety as well.
Representative Ilagan.
I yield my time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Finally, I will be brief, I'm sorry. This bill also institutes a number of public health protections. As the AG noted in their draft report, this bill implements extensive, well-funded public health protections, including mandatory public education campaigns to inform the public about the new laws and continuing risks to public health posed by cannabis, and financial assistance for public health services such as addiction and substance abuse treatments. It goes on to establish a number of special funds and grant programs that supplement financially the number of nonprofits that address these social ills from other substance abuse as well. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I do want to note again that while the Attorney General in the report noted that they do not support the legalization of adult use cannabis, they say, quote, "I am proud of what we have presented here today. This is a reasonable, moderate bill that sought to balance a myriad of interests with significant known and unknown risks." Mr. Speaker, we rarely vote on any measure here with certainty. There is always going to be risks involved, but from a consumer protection point of view, this bill would help the public. This will make consumption of recreational marijuana safer. And with that, again, I stand with reservations. Thank you.
Representative Souza.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In opposition, and
Please
I would
proceed.
like the words of the Vice Chair Finance and the representative from Kaneohe inserted into the journal as my own. Thank you.
So ordered. Representative Onishi.
Speaker, no vote.
So no vote, so ordered. Representative Bellotti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In support with reservations.
So ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In support, largely for many of the reasons articulated but by our Chair of Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs. And I would like to thank that Chair for doing the tremendous work that was undertaken to craft such a moderate and reasonable bill that looks out for public safety, health, and the welfare of our people. I also support this bill because of many of the reasons outlined by people who are opposed to it. because of the fact that cannabis presents a harmful, dangerous effect to our residents, our community, and mostly because of the harm that it can cause to the youth. And I've always approached this area of cannabis regulation from that perspective. How do we craft laws that protect public health, safety, and our youth? Mr. Speaker, my reservations, though, come from the fact that there are federal actions that affect this public safety, health, and welfare. Federal actions that we must respond to as a legislative body. And these are actions that we don't have any control of. It was the president of the other party in 2018 that legalized and made hemp, removed hemp, defined as cannabis, with low concentrations of the psychoactive compound delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol from the definition of marijuana in the Controlled Substances Act. This action by the president of another party has led to a situation where in this state we have legalized the purchase of very dangerous cannabis products. Products where you can walk into Ala Moana and purchase things like Green Road CBD Puff Melon Ice, or Green Road CBD Puff Lush Ice. How about CBD Puff Mixed Berries that have tremendous amounts of cannabinoids in them? You can also go in to these legal sites and purchase hemp-derived cannabis products, edibles, Mr. Speaker, like fruit drops. How about lemon drops, CBD gummy bears, or CBD assorted rings? There is no regulation stopping anyone under the age of 21 from purchasing these products. These products are used, and if seen by law enforcement, cannot be stopped by law enforcement. So it is this measure that looks to regulate the hemp market, the illegal illicit black market, and yes, even strengthen the medical cannabis market that is going to protect the public health and safety of our people because of the state of federal laws, creating a state of deregulation and lack of regulation and lack of testing, not just in our state, but in many, many states. And it was nice to hear, when this bill was heard, to get confirmation that the Attorney General is also very concerned about in this area of hemp-derived cannabis that is uncontrolled, unregulated, and untested in our community. Mr. Speaker, another reason why I support this bill with reservations is because there is another impending federal action that may take place, where if cannabis is descheduled to Schedule 3, it could cause chaos even within our medical cannabis market. So this bill, as it stands now, where it can move to the Finance Committee and other issues be addressed so that the House comes out with a position on how to best regulate cannabis. We don't need to take the bill wholesale from what the Senate did, and we've already amended it. We don't need to take the bill wholesale from how the Attorney General amended it. The title says related to cannabis. If this body is truly interested in regulating and protecting our community, especially our youth, who are vaping at higher numbers, and some of these hemp-derived legal cannabis businesses in our community are selling vape cartridges that are getting into the hands of our youth. If we're really serious about it, let's continue to move this bill and find a way to have a House position that regulates, tests, taxes. We already tax these hemp-derived cannabis products at 4%. Let's figure out a way that we can tax them more, as this bill currently does, and let's figure out a way to really determine our own destiny with legislation that can continue to be worked on, because you know what? We have April still to go. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Perek.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In opposition?
Please proceed.
So we've already voted on this measure. 23 of us voted no already, and some of us voted with reservations, and some of us voted yes on a previous day. So this message is mainly for, obviously I'm addressing you, but those who are hearing me, it's mainly for those who are trying to switch from a no vote to a yes with reservations. Our primary elections are coming up in 5 months in August, and there are many people, political action committees, donors, and candidates who are waiting for that no vote to switch to a yes vote with reservations.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Perrick, please confine your remarks to the substance of this measure.
Thank you. I'm talking about the implications of somebody voting yes with reservation on this bill.
No, please confine your remarks to the content of this measure.
I'm against this bill, and I encourage everybody to vote no against it. Thank you.
Representative Garcia.
In opposition?
Please proceed.
Thank you. I want to thank the speakers who have spoken thus far, both for and against it. I want to speak, there's been lots of the numbers thrown around of fatalities and of children from both sides and the impacts it will have on Hawaii's residents. But I want to speak from a personal standpoint. I was born and raised in public housing programs here in Hawaii, and this was prevalent. It was all around us growing up. Cigarette, weed, everybody did it in public housing. And the influence came upon me and my siblings at a very early age. And the reason why I am voting no today is because I've seen the impact that this has had on my family and the impact that it's had on families around me in public housing and friends. And some may say, well, this isn't a gateway drug. Well, to some people, it could be. Just like with alcohol, some people are very tolerant, some people are not tolerant. Some people can drink a whole 6-pack and be okay. Some people will drink 2 beers and not be okay. Same with marijuana. Some are tolerant, some are not. But I do believe, Mr. Speaker, that the medical cannabis industry should be expanded here in Hawaii. I do believe that more people would be a lot better off if they had access to medical marijuana versus all the opioids that are being used, antidepressants which are being used. But I don't believe that full legalization will be good for society at large. I've talked with my family and friends about this recently who still smoke weed on a daily basis. And even they say, Diamond, please vote no against this, because they know the impacts it will have on the children of Hawaii. And I just heard the previous speaker or the couple previous speakers ago say, what about these Delta 9 vapes and all this stuff which are currently being sold and the impact that that's having on children currently in schools? We argue all the time about banning flavored tobacco. Big rallies up here about banning flavored tobacco. Yet we're going to legalize marijuana, and we think that these vape pens, by the way, there's full THC. Just go to California, Washington, Oregon. You go to these stores, all these flavors, mixed berry, cherry, strawberry, and we think that those items are not going to be in the hands of our keiki. We can't even control flavored tobacco products. Teachers are coming to us saying they're having behavioral issues in school because they're hooked on nicotine products. And if Delta 9's a problem currently, what makes us think full THC pens and edibles and other stuff will not get in the hands of children today? It's just impossible. That's the first reason. Second reason is this. I surveyed my district, and the overwhelming majority, Mr. Speaker, over 65% who responded said they do not support the full legalization. So therefore, I would urge my colleagues to remember our state motto, "Ua mau ke eo o ka aina I ka pono." The life of this land is perpetuated in righteousness. So cannabis isn't an evil plant, but it's how we use it and how we regulate it. And this bill, in my opinion, is not good for society. No vote.
Representative Perrick, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I call a recess? Recess.
Take a recess, a brief recess, subject to the call of the chair. Recess. Okay, will the House come to order? We're still on discussion. Any discussion? Representative Gates.
Mahalo, Mr. Speaker. I rise in strong support.
Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, as your chair of Agriculture and Food Systems, I look at cannabis and hemp as the plant it is. But when we consider SB 3335, we must ask ourselves one fundamental question. Why? Why should we strongly regulate and tax cannabis here in the state of Hawaii? The answer is simple. Because tens of thousands of pounds and millions of dollars are already being exchanged each year illegally in Hawaii through the illicit market. With the feds legalizing hemp products in 2018 through the Farm Bill Act, we now have hemptuaries in our communities and selling illegal products that we see as illegal, but is not illegal on the federal level. And that is my fear, Mr. Speaker. If the federal government legalizes cannabis, it puts Hawaii residents and consumers at a disadvantage because they will be operating under federal rules rather than state frameworks that are unique to our communities. Right now, cannabis is sold indiscriminately on street corners, in schools, homes, businesses across the island. It's sold to anyone willing to pay, kids included. There are no safeguards right now. There are no rules. Cannabis can be tainted with fentanyl and other drugs incorporated into edible products that look like candy. Opponents of SB 3335 have raised concerns that cannabis will be sold on every corner or lead to more criminal activities in our communities. Well, Mr. Speaker, I too share those concerns. I'm concerned that cannabis can already be sold on every street corner, that cannabis is already being sold by criminals. I'm concerned that these same criminals are selling the cannabis and hemp products to our children, the one we want to protect. We simply can't turn a blind eye to the fact that cannabis is currently being sold illegally each and every day in Hawaii. In previous testimony in CPC from HPD, law enforcement admits that it doesn't go after cannabis offenses already. They're focused on meth and fentanyl, which we believe their resources should be allocated to. If you don't know that cannabis is being sold and hemp products are being sold in our community illegally, I'd urge you to look into getting a prescription to help with it, glaucoma. It's cliche and I cringe every time to point this out, but it's accurate nonetheless. The definition of insanity is repeating the same behavior and expecting a different result. We've repeated the same behavior of turning a blind eye to see these types of crimes increasing in our community and us not doing anything about it. Cannabis has always been outlawed, yet the illegal market continues to flourish. We had the 1980s war on drugs before I was born, Mr. Speaker, yet the illegal market has continued to flourish. We had Operation Green Harvest here locally in Hawaii, which contributed to many Native Hawaiians being incarcerated, yet the illegal market has continued to flourish. We established a medical cannabis dispensary as a legal outlet, and the illegal market continues to flourish. We decriminalized possession of cannabis in small quantities, yet the illegal market has continued to flourish because we provide no legal means to access cannabis here in Hawaii, besides the medical market. This bill provides another path, one that has already been taken by 24 other states, to legalize, regulate, and tax cannabis for 21 plus adult use. Majority of the public here in Hawaii also supports legalization, and I feel that it is our duty to do the people's work and give the people what they are asking for. The governor is also in support, as well as the Senate and House members here. Under this bill, cannabis can only be sold at a limited number of strictly regulated and licensed retail. It can only be sold to 21 and over. It must be tested and certified by labs. It can't look like candy or other products that might be enticing to children. And it has the 14% tax. The funding that will be generated through this will also go to law enforcement, social programs, and other initiatives to help our state. And the tax revenue can exceed over $100 million in a few short years. Cannabis industry workers would be allowed to organize and join unions, creating new job opportunities with living wages.
Representative Lowen.
Mr. Speaker, I yield my time.
Thank you. This bill no longer includes appropriation, and it will use the funds from the medical program to administer this program. Most importantly, this bill takes the best practices and lessons learned from other states that have legalized cannabis, so we avoid the unintended consequences feared by some. Mr. Speaker, I'm proud of the strength and leadership of our legislature that we have demonstrated over the years on many important issues, from being the first state to establish 100% renewable energy goals to being among the first state to allow same-sex marriage. I know that change can be scary and that this bill might seem like a significant change to some of you. But at this time, I also know that each one of you are strong, and I know that you guys are all leaders and can see clearly that the data supports legalization here in Hawaii, whether it's the reduced usage of youth, whether it's cleaner, better products and safer products for the end consumer, or the money that can be generated to then go to paying for additional law enforcement to go after kids not only using cannabis, but also other illegal crimes in the community, Mr. Speaker. I hope you all understand that Hawaii is the last remaining democratically controlled state to consider legalizing and regulating adult use cannabis. And I hope that you guys join me in supporting SB 3335 and demonstrate the leadership our legislature is known for. In closing, Mr. Speaker, you have always told your members that the House of Representatives need to lead the way for the future of Hawaii. And with your support, we've gotten this far in the discussion relating to cannabis. So let's continue to lead the way. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Todd.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I'm in support and set a good example by inserting my prior comments from the last time we had this conversation. And just note to supporters and opponents that there's a variety of very extensive studies done on the subject matter. Virtually all of them show there's no positive or negative impact in pretty much any capacity, in any direction you look at. So given that, I kind of err on the side of individual liberty. Thank you.
So ordered on the written comments. Representative Perrick. Second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In opposition? Majority of my constituents are Filipino Catholics, over 60%, and so to represent them, I'll be voting no. I ask the question, for all of us, who do we represent? What's the majority makeup? What's their demographic? What's their religion? What's their preference on this issue? That should have a big part to play on what we believe we should do.
Representative.
According to Rule 28, we should limit remarks to the content of the bill.
Please confine your remarks, Representative.
Thank you. With regards to this bill, it receives public testimony in committees, and it receives testimony with emails, phone calls, text messages, and direct messages to the representatives. So with regards to this bill, we ask ourselves, what is the pulse of the committee? What is the pulse of the community on this issue? If it's...
Point of order.
Representative Nakamura, please state your point.
Again, according to Rule 28, we are not talking about the pulse of the community. We are talking about the contents of the adult cannabis bill before us.
Please proceed.
Thank you.
Representative Garcia.
Mr. Speaker, the public impulse
Please
relates.
you have a point?
Yes, my point of personal privilege, I guess, would be mentioning how your district feels about this bill is completely related to this bill.
Representative Garcia, the chair has asked Representative Perrick to continue with his remarks. Please proceed.
Thank you. So in receiving public input, I think it's a good idea for us to vote in alignment with that, and we should ask ourselves, is the public input coming from social media polls, website polls, and that would probably attract a certain demographic, and then is it coming from surveys sent out to our voters that's going to attract another demographic? People that fill out paper forms probably are on the older side, and people who are filling out like social media polls are probably on the younger side. So these are things we should consider when we vote yes or no. I'll be voting no. Thank you.
Representative Lamasau.
No vote. Thank you.
So ordered. Representative Tam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In support, permission to insert written comments and another brief comment.
So ordered. Please proceed.
Thank you. I also surveyed my district. I asked them, do they support marijuana legalization? I didn't ask them whether it's regulated or anything. And 55% of them came back and said yes, 38% said no, 7% said unsure, and of the 7% that said unsure, they all favored a well-regulated market. So we can pretty much count them in the support pile too. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Representative Takanuchi.
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Garrett.
Same request, please.
Was that a no vote?
Yes, no vote.
So ordered. Representative Kilo.
Mr. Speaker, opposition.
Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, as a registered Democrat, the Democratic platform is a yes, but today I am a no. In a rare move of bipartisan opposition, you have both parties today sharing their opposition. As a Democrat, we often push measures to advance and move the party forward in our communities, but as a representative in Nanakuli Ma'ili, when I have a district of unhoused people experiencing substance abuse, where is that same support? The ACLU recently has taken a public stance to support, Mr. Speaker. Where is ACLU when I need help dealing with folks experiencing substance abuse that occupy public spaces, beaches, and prevent the public to access public spaces? Every single person that you can talk to on the unhoused coastline of the west side will mention at any one point in time, weed was their first drug. Sorry, cannabis. Every county police department has testified in opposition. I refuse to continue the narrative of this body that we are continuing to alienate law enforcement every single time that they have voiced their concern. If we're going to consider marijuana, I also would like this body to consider gambling, the true tax revenue that it's generator that it's to be. A previous speaker said on the floor in the 1920s and mentioned the war on drugs. Mr. Speaker, let me remind the body, in the 1920s, we were a territory, not a state. The inclusion and introduction of drugs has hurt Native Hawaiian communities to the point that where we have moved from Hawaii and have moved to the coastlines of Hawaii. To protect the family was another notion mentioned. My no vote is to protect families, Mr. Speaker. At a town hall held in the interim, I had a young daughter come to the microphone, 11 years old, when we asked the question to the community on the legalization of marijuana. She had shared that drugs has affected her family directly and that her dad was first smoking marijuana. Her dad then transitioned to every other drug afterwards, sold their car to the effects of gambling, and has now put them in homelessness. Data may say otherwise, but when you also talk to people perspectives are different from data. Anyone in recovery of substance abuse will mention more times than not that yes, marijuana was their first drug and may also serve as a gateway drug. Mr. Speaker, what happens when our schools become inundated with marijuana? We will stand to be blamed, as they already are. Many proponents of this measure talk about the importance of its effects about Native Hawaiians. Where are the proponents of this issue of Native Hawaiians when displacement, access to housing, and addressing the cost of living, when all these are relevant matters and they choose not to show up? Native Hawaiians are often the scapegoat to pass or not pass a measure, and I refuse to allow that narrative to continue. When folks are experiencing substance abuse, they are not in the backyard of your communities. They come to the west side of Oahu, and they occupy public spaces and beaches that then do not allow people to access the places that they pay taxes to. If folks want to be supportive of Native Hawaiians as they claim to be, then show up 24/7 and not when it financially benefits you.
Representative Kahalua.
In support, Mr. Speaker.
Please proceed.
May I please insert comments into the journal with a brief comment?
So ordered.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As some of you know, we have a great deal of agriculture in Kona and on Hawaii Island. Besides Kona coffee, we have Kona gold. Kona gold and Maui Waui are examples of globally known strains of cannabis products that are Hawaii-made products. I would love to see them as legal agriculture in Hawaii.
Representative Alcos. Representative Alcos.
Mr. Speaker, oppose.
Please
comment.
proceed.
Marijuana, some of us are over here talking about testing the marijuana and the experience that they have. I mean, just imagine if all of us smoke 5 joints, 10 joints, and right now we're making rules in the state. All of us is all stoned inside here. But it's legal. I can go outside there during my lunch break and smoke marijuana, come inside here and be the voice for the people. This is who we represent is ourselves, our people, our family. Some people take steroids, make them stronger, faster, bigger. That seems like a good drug, but it's illegal. Cocaine, other drugs, make them stay up, make them work harder. But we say no to those drugs because those drugs are illegal. It alternates our body, it alternates our mind. And yet marijuana is a drug that, even some that says that there's so many pounds of illegal drugs is coming on, or marijuana coming on, and coming in Hawaii, or monies that are being transferred. So now we go after all these other illegal drugs that have steroids, cocaine, or whatever, based on pounds and money. But we don't do that because we know that's wrong. We know that this illegal drugs is, through life experience, we didn't see much enhancement that people grow better for our community, but you can see that it affects our community through life experience. I don't need to test one professional from UH or somebody to study in it. I just had to live it. We all live it. We all know our families that has been struggling. And yet we sit here today making like we should legalize it because maybe we need more tax money, or maybe we should support some other cause for it. But it is legal medically. People already can get it as the way it is, but we don't have to hurt more of ruining lives. So for our colleagues here, if we have reservations or oppose, this is a chance that we can really make a difference. And I know that we are here and trying to do it, and I don't see anybody coming inside here stone, because I believe that we have the right intentions. So let's continue with the right intentions and serve our people. Thank you.
Representative La Chica.
Mr. Speaker, no vote.
So ordered. Representative Woodson.
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Ayu.
No vote, please.
So ordered. Representative Chun.
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Ganaden.
Mr. Speaker, rise in support.
Please proceed.
May I have the words of the Chair of Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs entered in the journal as if they were my own?
So ordered.
Brief comment. One of the good things about being a state that is late in national or international conversations that we can take a lot of lessons and figure out what is appropriate for Hawaii or not. I think that this measure takes some reasonable regulations and long overdue regulations of cannabis. For those reasons, I'm in support.
Representative Ward, second
Speaker,
speech.
second time I want to footnote a couple of things. First, a comment that I'm really proud of what we're doing. We're actually debating. This is the marketplace of ideas, and I think this is really what the people put us here for, regardless of what their position is on this particular vote. First thing I want to mention is that for some reason, some people think that the black market is going to go away because of what we've got here. We have to remember that the AG said that this is not something that she supports because of public safety. And some people have said, well, because of public safety, well, that's just made up stuff. She's not doing Fauci science. She's doing real public safety, listening to all the police commissioners, all the mayors.
Speaker,
and all the Representative
point of order.
Please state your point.
Fauci science, I'm not sure what he's referring to.
That's a creative use of terms because of
Ward.
what is true and what is not true. And don't interrupt me when I'm speaking.
Ward.
Don't interrupt me when I'm speaking. I have a vocabulary. You have a vocabulary.
Please call the chair.
Everybody has a vocabulary.
The House comes to order. Representative Ward, you have the floor.
Thank you, Speaker. I was speaking about the Attorney General saying, because of public safety, because of those professionals who are on the line for those people who are under the influence of marijuana, they know that this stuff is real. She's doing it for more than she just covering her backside on this thing. She said she doesn't do it. Of course, she made, because of what we want, a structure and a safety. But to think that the black market's going to go away, Mr. Speaker, is really naive. I think to believe that is being very unscientific. The second thing is, I think there's one word that we've not mentioned in this whole debate, and that's the H word, the homeless. We have a mental crisis among the homeless. The most accessible thing to them is marijuana, even though it's the cheap wine and the booze that they're doing also. If we legalize, and we think we've got a control under homelessness and the money that we're paying, Mr. Speaker, we're paying millions upon millions of dollars, and then there's somebody related to this homeless czar here who knows this is a big problem. And we have tried to, through the governor, ambitiously, to cut down homelessness in the next 3 years, which I applaud, and we should do it. But if we legalize this, this is going to work against our colleague to eliminate homelessness, because it's going to increase homelessness because of the way that marijuana affects the economy, the people, and particularly the youth, who I think we should be really in protection for. So normalization, homelessness is going to be catalyzed by the increase in the use of marijuana. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Representative Pruso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In support, and I'd just like to enter into the journal the words of the chair of the Health Committee and also the vice chair of CPC as if they were my own.
So ordered. Representative Mizuno.
With reservations, Mr. Speaker.
So ordered. Representative Kong.
Opposition, no vote.
So ordered. Representative Capella.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In strong support,
Please proceed.
I would just like to take a moment to thank the Chair of Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs for his commitment to this work and being able to put forward a really incredible bill. And I'm really proud to be a part of the body that was able to hear this. I'd also like to thank his committee and the committees that have had to hear this bill as well. I know that they have spent long hours listening to them and listening to members of the community. I would also like to have his words, the Chair of Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs, put into the journal as if they were my own.
So ordered.
Thank you. Along with the representative from Huloaloa inserted into the journal as my own as
So
well.
ordered.
You know, I think this is an issue. It's going to keep coming back again and again and again, and I think my constituents would be upset if I didn't stand up in strong support. I have been a supporter since I've gotten elected, and I will continue to support this until we get this work done. I also want to say that, you know, as someone who has watched families be ripped apart by the war on drugs, I think it's really high time that we legalize recreational cannabis use and stop ripping families apart for smoking a plant.
Is there further discussion? Representative Gates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Still in support, just wanted to mention that alcohol is the #1 gateway drug to other illicit hardcore drugs, as noted by HPD in their testimony in CPC. We also know that prohibition hasn't been working on this issue relating to cannabis, and if we are not going to do anything to change what's being done now, then how can we expect anything to change? And the last thing is, there is an adequate amount of support for those in our houseless population that want support. We have gone out countless times to those on the beach on the west side, and the people we can help, we helped, and the people that did not want to take the help, that's a rock and a hard place to put the legislature and folks that are in that situation. But I do think that there is a lot being done to address those situations in our community, and I think that this can help address those issues as well. Mahalo.
Representative Matsuyoshi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Still in opposition.
Please proceed.
I just want to encourage the body to vote on the bill before us. While I respect and actually agree with the Chair of Health on a lot of the protections that this bill puts in, I disagree that we should vote with reservations or vote in favor of this bill just to see it move along. If those changes are made, then I might reconsider my vote. I just don't know. But we cannot compare or we can't be voting on what the bill might be. We can't be voting on a bill that has some good parts, but also has an incredible harm to our society in the form of legalizing recreational marijuana. I think, and I encourage all the members to vote on the bill before us. This might be the last time that we get to see this bill, and I encourage you all to just take a look, make a vote on the bill before us at this time. Thank you.
Okay, is there further? Representative Algos.
Mr. Speaker, just sitting down, listening to the votes, we're just 4 votes away to killing it right now.
Are you still in opposition?
Opposition.
Please proceed.
Guys, some of us didn't vote on it, and some of you here get to share your voice on it. This is a chance that your voice is really being heard in your community. And please, this is a passionate bill, I guess, to all of us. So please make your voices or let your voice be heard. Thank you.
All right, is there further discussion, members?
Mr.
Representative
Speaker,
Ichiyama?
no vote, and may I have the words of the Vice Chair of Finance inserted into the journal as if they were my own? Thank you.
So ordered. Further discussion, Representative Hashem. Representative Hashem.
Register or no vote? Thank you.
So ordered. Further discussion? All right, members, could we take a recess subject to the call of the chair? Recess. Members, is there any discussion on these measures before we take the vote? We're taking a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. Okay, we're on page 17. Representative Nakamura.
Mr. Speaker, can we have a division of the House?
So could you repeat that, please?
May we have a division of the House?
Request.
I second the motion.
All right. Let's take a recess subject to call of the chair. Recess. All right, members, we're back on page 17. Representative Nakamura.
Representative
Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we take a roll call vote on SB number 3335.
Representative
Second
Ward.
the motion.
Members, let's take a recess subject to the call of the chair. Recess. With House come to order, Representative Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to do a roll call vote on the previous vote for all the bills.
I second the motion.
Representative Ward. All right, let's take a third recess, members, subject to the call of the chair. Recess. Okay, will the House come to order? Members, just for the members' edification, the vote on SCR 1339, Senate Bill 3335, was as follows. 25 votes were recorded in favor and 23 votes were recorded in opposition. Of the 25 votes, 3 were recorded as with reservations. So the vote was 25-23. Okay, with that, can we get back to page 17, Representative Nakamura?
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt Standing Committee Report numbers 1340-24 and 1341-24 as listed on page 17, and that the accompanying Senate bills as amended pass second reading and be placed on the calendar for third reading.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Any discussion? SCR 1340, 1341. Any
Mr. Speaker.
discussion? Representative Holt.
No vote, please.
So ordered. Representative Ganadin.
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Hussey Burdick.
1341, no vote.
So ordered. Representative Souza.
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Prusso.
No vote.
So ordered. Further discussion, Representative Capella?
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Amato?
No vote.
So ordered. Further discussion, Representative Poi Poi?
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Bellotti?
With reservations.
So ordered. Representative Gates?
With reservations.
So ordered. Further discussion? Okay, if not, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. Representative Nakamura.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt Standing Committee Report numbers 1342-24 through 1351-24 as listed on pages 18 through 20, and that the accompanying House resolutions and House concurrent resolutions be referred to their designated committees.
All right, members.
Mr. Speaker.
Where's Morikawa?
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Okay, members, discussion, SCR 1342 and 1343. SCR 1344 and 1345. Representative Garcia?
No vote.
So ordered. Next page, 1346 and 1347. 1348. Representative Garcia?
1346 and 47, no vote.
So ordered. 1348 and 1349. 1350 and 1351. Representative Garcia?
No vote.
So ordered. Representative Perret?
No vote.
So ordered. Further discussion? Okay, if not, we'll take the voice vote. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. Representative Nakamura.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt Standing Committee Report numbers 1352-24 and 1353-24 as listed on page 20, and that the accompanying House resolutions and House concurrent resolutions as amended be adopted.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Discussion, members, SCR 1352 and 1353. Any discussion? If not, we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. We're on item 6, third reading for the motion to suspend. Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules of the House in order to consider certain Senate bill for third reading by consent calendar.
Representative Garcia.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. For third reading motion, Representative Nakamura.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Senate Bill number 2387 as listed on page 21 pass third reading.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Okay, members, any discussion on SB 2387? Discussion? If not, we'll take the vote. Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, on the measure before us, all majority members vote aye.
Representative Garcia.
On the measure before us, all minority members vote aye.
Right, members, have all votes been cast? If so, said measure passes third reading. Item 7, are there any announcements? If not, Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker.
Representative Lachik. Representative Ichiyama.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a friendly reminder, the Women's Legislative Caucus Easter Basket Drive is next week, Wednesday. And we just wanted to share that we had to move the event. We're usually at the chamber level down here in front of the glass doors, but we're going to be moving up to the rotunda. Thank you.
Further announcements? If not, Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House stand adjourned until 12 o'clock noon Monday.
Representative Garcia.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. The House stands adjourned until 12 noon Monday.